Good morning, everyone. My name is Jack, and welcome to another citation webinar, the fundamentals of HR for NDIS service providers. Now, we will be getting started in a couple of minutes. Please get yourself comfortable while we wait for everyone to enter the session. Okay, great. It looks like we've got enough people who have joined us, so we can make a start. Now, if you missed the beginning, my name is Jack, and welcome to our webinar, Fundamentals of HR for NDIS Service Providers, presented by Citation Group. Now, before we deep dive into the presentation, I just want to cover off some general housekeeping rules. If you have a question during the webinar, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and we will try and answer them at the end of the presentation. You do not need to wait until the end. You can type them in throughout the webinar as well, if that's how you want to do things. That's absolutely fine. But today we'll be discussing the top HR issues impacting the disability industry. We'll provide you with tips and tools so you can walk away from the session well equipped to address any risk if they should arise. I'm really glad you've all joined us today, and hopefully by the time the webinar ends, you'll be armed with some useful information that will help you on your people management journey. Today, our webinar will be presented by Clinton Tomaldon. Clint is a senior workplace relations consultant at Citation HR and is actually based in Melbourne. He works with our clients daily via the HR advice line by providing them with guidance and support on a range of employment matters. And a little bit about me. My name's Jack. I'm a business development coordinator at Citation HR. I liaison with businesses to help them uncover any gaps that they might have around their HR and safety processes, and then find a solution that streamlines their internal processes overall. If you haven't attended one of our webinars in the past, we like to get started with a quick slide around who we are and what we do here at Citation Group. Citation Group has been around for over 30 years, working to help Australian and New Zealand businesses by providing complete workplace compliance solutions that help create better workplaces. Now, that could be from outsourced HR solutions to safety management or even ISO certification. Workplace law and migration, Citation Group can support your businesses in all of these areas. If you'd like to learn more about us, I would be pleased to talk to you after today's webinar so we can work together on a bespoke solution. Now, before we get into the fun stuff of today's topic, I will give a brief overview of how we have been helping businesses beyond our webinars. Citation HR is a complete, compliant, and cost-effective solution that helps businesses keep on top of their HR obligations and streamline people management processes that ultimately will save you endless hours. Now, whether you're a small business or a large enterprise, every company needs a solid HR partner that supports and provides that reassurance for you. One of the awesome things about Citation HR is that we can provide, a tailored HR solution for your business. It could be from the 24/7 hour advice line where you can access our workplace consultants, HR software, and the library of HR resources to the Advice Promise, and also the Compliance Training Center. We have a range of solutions that could suit your needs. Okay, that's all from me. I'll stop rambling on now. I'd like to now hand over to Clint, who'll take you through today's topic. I hope you enjoy the webinar, though, and I'll see you guys a little later on. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks, Jack. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining both of us today. So, as you can see on the screen, I've provided a bit of a overview about what we're going to discuss today, the industry structure. So we'll go through just the industry itself, a forecast of what to expect, the common ER/IR questions that myself and the team get on a daily basis, and we'll hand it back over to Jack to talk about the citation software usage, as well as go through a Q&A about the questions that you may have whilst this presentation moves along. So now to just go over the industry structure. The National Disability Insurance Scheme, or the NDIS sector, has emerged as one of Australia's most rapidly expanding industries over the past decade. In the last 5 years alone, revenue for NDIS providers has soared, averaging an annual growth of 27.5%, culminating in a total of $37.5 billion for the 2022-23 fiscal year. The industry is composed of a significant number of small businesses, typically employing an average of 8 employees. This pattern demonstrates that the surge in revenue has been closely matched by increase in business numbers, distributing the revenue more evenly across the sector rather than concentrating it among a few entities. Looking ahead, the growth in both revenue and the number of businesses is expected to slow down substantially as the NDIS scheme stabilizes, and as a result, will likely present both opportunities and challenges for providers. While the rate of new business entries may slow, employment levels are expected to increase at a faster pace, meaning this dynamic could open doors for existing providers to expand their reach and market share at the expense of competitors. Well, what does this mean for providers? With more than 645,000 active NDIS participants receiving support from more than 220,000 active NDIS providers, with these numbers increasing daily, it has never been more crucial for businesses to ensure compliance with Australia's workplace regulations. Whether it's addressing workplace discrimination, meeting payroll requirements, or maintaining proper people management processes, disability providers of all sizes face the challenge of staying on top of their employer obligations. Now we'll just go through common ER/HR queries that we go through on a daily basis. What are modern awards? So Australian employees are either award-free or covered by a modern award. There are 120 modern awards, and all denote under a coverage clause what type of industry or roles will be applicable to each award. Modern awards set minimum employment standards across industries and are regulated by the Fair Work Commission. It covers wages, penalties, leave, and working hours and various other entitlements. Modern awards also classify job roles, ensuring fair compensation based on responsibilities and skills. Modern awards also regulate working hours and promote workplace safety through work health and safety provisions. In summary, modern awards ensure fair treatment of workers and safe environments across diverse industries in Australia. In regard to the most relevant modern award that covers NDIS providers, the modern award that is applicable is the Industry Award, the Social Community Home Care and Disability Services Industry Award 2020, or commonly referred to as SHADS. SHADS outlines specific classifications for different job roles within the social community home care and disability services sector. These classifications are essential for determining wage rates, skill levels, and progression pathways within the industry. These classifications may vary slightly depending on the organization and the specific services provided. Additionally, SHADS classifications often include multiple levels within each category to accommodate varying levels of experience, qualifications, and responsibilities. What is a relevant modern award that covers NDIS providers? Like I said, it would be the SHADS. So SHADS applies to a wide range of roles within the sector, including but not limited to aged care workers, disability support workers, community service providers, and home care assistants. You will see here the coverage clause 4 within the modern award. Now, what is the minimum payment for part-time and casual employees? As of July 1st, 2022, there is a notable increase in the minimum payment requirement for casual home care workers. Previously, these employees were entitled to a minimum payment for just 1 hour of work. However, this has now been doubled to 2 hours. The relevant clause to refer to is clause 10.5 of the SHADS, which is on the screen. In regard to part-time employees, they must be paid for a minimum of either 3 hours for social and community services employees, excluding disability services work, or 2 hours for social and community service employees doing disability services work, or 2 hours for all other employees for each shift or work period in a broken shift, known as a minimum payment. Additionally, Part-time employees and casual employees now have the option to work for more than one client during their minimum payment period, marking a new entitlement introduced under the SHADS, effective from the 1st of July 2022. This adjustment acknowledges the diverse nature of their work and allows for greater efficiency in service delivery. We'll have a bit of a pause in the presentation now, and I'll hand you back to Jack, who will provide a fantastic opportunity for you all.
Thanks, Clint. What a fantastic presentation so far, and really, really insightful. Now, if you're starting to think about some of these issues in your own business, or perhaps you have an existing workplace matter you need some support with, here's a special offer for you. Now, we're offering everyone on today's call a complimentary consultation. This is the perfect opportunity not only to speak with me, but also to discuss your business's compliance, understand if you have any glaring risks, and we can share our knowledge with you. We'd love to be able to assist you. So simply scan the QR code on the screen. And if you're on mobile, you can click through using the link in the chat box below. I will give you a minute to complete the form, and then we can get back to the presentation. And just before I hand you back to Clint, please do use the Q&A box as well for any questions that you might have. All right, I'll pass you back over to Clint, who will take you through the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Jack. Now back to the presentation. How do we deal with client cancellations in accordance with the SHADS? A home care or disability service that's canceled or rescheduled by the customer is known as a client cancellation. When a client cancels a scheduled home care or disability service within 7 days of the service, and a full-time or part-time employee was rostered to provide it, this is termed as a client cancellation. So in such instances, employers have several options for handling the cancellation. They can direct the employee to perform other work during the canceled hours. Alternatively, they may choose to cancel the entire shift, or they can opt to cancel only the affected part of the shift. Now, if a shift is indeed canceled, the employer is obligated to take specific actions. They must either pay the employee the amount that they would have earned if they had worked the shift, or provide the employee with makeup time equivalent to the same amount of hours of work at another time. So the relevant clause that deals with client cancellations is clause 25.5F in the SHADS. Now to another question that we get: what is remote work and what are our obligations under the SHADS? So as per clause 25.10, employees who are directed or authorized by their employer to be on call for work may engage in remote work. Additionally, employees may perform remote work when not on call if necessary. So remote work, as defined under the SHADS, refers to work performed by the employee that is not part of their rostered ordinary hours, or for casual employees, not a designated shift, is not additional hours worked by a part-time employee or overtime after a regular shift, or is not required to be performed in the designated workplace. It's important to note that remote work performed between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. is compensated at the employee's minimum hourly rate of pay, unless it attracts one of the following penalty rates. In summary, these provisions allow for flexibility in performing work remotely when necessary, ensuring fair compensation for employees' efforts. Another question we get is, if an employee is on call, do they receive an allowance? The simple answer is yes. Employees receive an allowance if they are required to be on call. The on-call allowance is a provision that compensates employees for being available to work outside of their regular hours in case of emergencies or urgent situations. Here's a breakdown of how the on-call allowance works. So when it comes to availability, employees who are required to be on call must make themselves available to respond to work-related matters promptly during the designated on-call period. This availability often involves carrying a phone or pager and being reachable at all times. In terms of compensation, to compensate employees for their availability and readiness to work during on-call hours, employers typically provide an on-call allowance. This allowance is an additional payment on top of the employee's regular wages and is designed to recognize the inconvenience and disruption associated with being on call. In terms of rates and conditions, the rate of the on-call allowance and any additional conditions, such as minimum hours of availability or response time, are typically outlined in the employment contract, enterprise agreement, or the SHADS award itself. The specific rate of pay may vary depending on factors such as the industry, job role, and employer policy. In terms of payment, employees are usually entitled to the on-call allowance regardless of whether they are called upon to work during the on-call period. However, if they are called to work, they may also receive additional compensation, such as penalty rates or overtime pay, depending on the circumstances and applicable provisions. So, in terms about what we speak to clients, staffed by qualified workplace relations experts, our HR advice line is open to our citation HR clients, handling questions covering everything from award compliance and interpretation to performance management and redundancy. Answering more than 40,000 calls annually, our experts provide our clients with tailored support, guidance, and assistance to navigate the complexities of employment law. To expand on the type of calls we've assisted on for our clients, we've advised clients on various conduct related matters, such as employees not following the required process concerning medication, an employee who formed a close personal relationship with a family member of a client and neglected their duties in favor of socializing with the family member, an employee who allowed friends to attend the home of a client during working hours, an employee who lost the client while on an outing at a shopping center, a manager who commenced a relationship with another employee who reported to him and harassed the employee after they broke off the relationship, and multiple employees falsifying time records to mark themselves as at work when they were in fact not. There is a higher level of complexity in the people management area for disability service providers than for most other industries. Several things contribute to an environment where people management challenges frequently arise. Some of these things include complex regulations and requirements when it comes to disability and aged care, the need to implement and strictly enforce policies, limitations on supervision of conduct and performance due to the remote nature of work, and labor resource challenges. Clients who have clear possibilities and processes in place and who manage compliance with those policies and processes tightly are better positioned to successfully manage these complexities. Beyond this, successfully navigating these complexities comes down to manager capability and the right tools and support. Now, in terms of using citation HR software, as you can see, what we can provide in terms of our software is creating and deploying contracts. So, employment related contracts for your staff, managing onboarding. So, when it comes to onboarding candidates, as well as their details, creating and deploying policies, an array of policies relating to bullying and harassment conduct, workplace surveillance, conducting performance appraisals. So, when it comes to an employee being within their probationary period, whether or not that they will progress or whether termination would be more appropriate, deploying employment relations training, getting your managers aware of their responsibilities when it comes to managing their own staff, as well as managing termination processes to ensure that any risks are covered when it comes to terminating an employee and understanding if there is any type of unfair dismissal or general protections risk. Now we're just going to head into the Q&A component, and I'll just pass back over to Jack.
Thanks a lot, Clint. All right, we've had an influx of questions, but only have time to answer a few today. If we don't answer your question today, we would be more than happy to talk to you offline, and we'll be in touch after the webinar. Okay. Question one, can we classify admin employees under the SHADS?
Good question, Jack. The simple answer is yes, but I'll provide a bit of an overview. So when we consider the SHADS, it applies to the following sectors, like I said at the start. So the crisis assistance and supported housing sector, social and community services sector, home care sector, and the family daycare scheme sector. So as previously outlined, a modern award provides classification levels which can describe duties, indicative tasks, and particular qualifications or training requirements, if any. And in terms of the social and community services sector, it outlines the following. So it states that the provision of social and community services, including social work, recreation work, welfare work, youth work, or community development work, including organizations which primarily engage in policy, advocacy, or representation on behalf of organizations carrying out such work, and the provision of disability services, including the provision of social, community, and disability services, including the provision of personal care, including therapeutic care and domestic and lifestyle support to a person, with a disability in a community and/or residential setting, including respite center and day services. As you can see or hear, the sector is quite broad and all-encompassing when it comes to an employee who is not providing services in a family daycare, private residence, or supported housing services. Schedule B of the SHADS provides classifications which outline administrative responsibilities. For example, the Social and Community Services Employee Level 2 classification outlines that its responsibilities include assisting with administrative functions. Furthermore, the Social and Community Services Level 3 classification outlines that its responsibilities include providing secretarial and/or administrative support requiring a high degree of judgment, initiative, confidentiality, and sensitivity in the performance of work. As such, clerical and admin employees employed by NDIS providers would be covered by the SHADS.
Thanks very much. Question 2 we have. Can you explain broken shifts and how that works in our industry?
Sure, happy to give a summary of this as it is one of the most difficult changes and concerns we've noted in the telephone advisory space for the SHADS. So, firstly, a broken shift is defined as a shift that is divided into 2 or 3 parts by one or more unpaid breaks within a 12-hour period. For instance, this could involve working for 2 hours, taking a 2-hour break, then working for 3 hours. Notably, a meal break does not constitute a break in a shift. So, as of the 1st of July, 2022, there are 2 broken shift allowances introduced for social and community services employees in disability services work and for home care employees. So, the amount of the broken shift allowance varies based on whether the employee has 1 or 2 unpaid breaks in their broken shift. So, the number of unpaid breaks determines the allowance amount. So, employers have the flexibility to roster an employee on a broken shift with 2 periods of work and 1 unpaid break. Alternatively, an employer and employee can mutually agree to work a broken shift with 3 periods of work and 2 unpaid breaks. Importantly, if an employee is required to work a broken shift, the minimum payment will apply for each period of work during that broken shift. This minimum payment period is applicable to all periods of work in a broken shift for both part-time and casual employees. And I'll give you a working example. So let's say John is a part-time social and community services employee who performs disability services work. He's covered by the SHADS. So John is rostered for a broken shift to be worked in 2 parts in the morning and afternoon. John works with his first client, Tom, for 90 minutes in the morning. John must be paid a minimum of 2 hours for this part of his broken shift to satisfy the new minimum payment requirement. John then has a 3-hour break before he sees his second client, Bob. John works with Bob for 2 hours in the afternoon and is paid for 2 hours. John will be entitled to a broken shift allowance as he is working a broken shift.
Okay, great. Question 3. Oh, I like this one. This is a good one. Is right to disconnect an automatic entitlement for employees to not correspond or communicate with their employers?
That's a good question, and it's a very hot topic at this point in time. The answer is no. And I can give you a brief summary as to what the right to disconnect entitlement is. So, this new right commenced on the 26th of August, 2024 for large businesses. So, a large business is 15 or more employees. And from the 26th of August, 2025 for small businesses, which are 14 or less employees. So, the Fair Work Amendment, Right to Disconnect Bill 2023, amended the Fair Work Act by providing that an employee has a workplace right to disconnect from work. That is, employees may refuse to monitor, read, or respond to contact or attempted contact for their employer or a third party if the contact or attempted contact relates to their work outside of the employee's working hours unless the refusal is unreasonable. So, without limiting the matters that may be considered in determining whether a refusal is unreasonable, the following must be taken into account. So, the reason for the contact or attempted contact, how the contact or attempted contact is made, and the level of disruption the contact or attempted contact causes the employee, the extent to which the employee is compensated. This also takes into account any non-monetary compensation afforded to the employee, such as remaining available to perform work during the period in which the contact or attempted contact is made, or for working additional hours outside of the employee's ordinary hours of work, the nature of the employee's role and the employee's level of responsibility, and the employee's personal circumstances, including family or caring responsibilities. As such, employees may still be contacted outside of work hours, as an employee's refusal cannot be unreasonable. So this can be dependent on various factors, such as the reasons for the contact or attempted contact, how the contact is made, and how much disruption it causes the employee, their level of responsibility or position, and any compensation that they earn, especially if they're on a very high salary.
Amazing. Awesome, Clint. Thank you so much. Now, I do want to take just another moment to remind you that you do have access to a complimentary consultation. This is the opportunity to maybe discuss a workplace issue in detail, or maybe perhaps your business is just looking to streamline its compliance, overall. Um, I'd love to be able to assist you. Citation would love to be able to assist you. So maybe take the moment to scan the QR code and book in. But if you're on mobile, you can click through using the link in the chat box below. So that's a wrap, folks. Thanks everyone for attending. I know you take time out of your days to come and watch us ramble on. But I will remind you to look out for the email and the recording that will be sent to you. So keep a keen eye on that. But honestly, get in touch with us if you have anything you want to discuss, from workplace relations straight through to your compliance, no matter how big or small. But I will take this opportunity to thank our Lord and Savior, Clinton. Thank you for that, mate. It was a great presentation.
Thank you, Jack, and thanks everyone for attending. Hopefully, I could be of some assistance.